The sound of the belt snapping through the air came before I even understood what I was hearing. It wasn't loud at first. It was sharp, controlled, intentional. Then my son screamed. I froze in the doorway for half a second too long, trying to process how a normal Sunday afternoon in our family home had turned into something I couldn't unsee. Landon was curled on the hardwood floor, his small hands over his head, his body instinctively trying to protect itself from something no child should ever expect. And standing over him was my sister, Sloane Harrington, her face tight, her arm raised again. The leather belt wrapped twice around her hand like this wasn't the first time she had done something like this. I didn't think. I moved. Sloane, stop. My voice didn't come out as a shout. It came out controlled, flat, which scared me more than if I had screamed. She turned toward me, not startled, not ashamed, just irritated. He needs to learn, she said, like she was explaining something obvious. Behind her, on the cream-colored sofa, my mother, Margot Thornton, didn't even stand up. She laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel in the way movies make it. It was casual, dismissive. "Oh, please," she said. Waving her hand like this was all an overreaction. We were raised worse. I walked past Sloane without looking at her again. I knelt beside Landon, gently pulling him into my arms, feeling his body shaking in a way I had never felt before. He didn't cry loudly anymore. He made those small, broken sounds that come after the worst of it is already over. That's what broke me. I stood up slowly, holding him against my chest, and turned back toward them. "She hit him with a belt," I said. Sloane crossed her arms. "He was being disrespectful. He's 8. That's exactly why it matters now." My mother sighed, like she was tired of both of us. "You're making this bigger than it is, Reed." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I realized she wasn't going to step in. She wasn't going to say it was wrong. She wasn't even going to pretend. Before we go further, I want you to think about this for a second. If you were standing where I was, holding your child while your own family dismissed what just happened, would you stay calm, or would something in you snap? Because in that moment, I felt both. I carried Landon upstairs to the guest room, away from their voices, away from that living room that suddenly didn't feel like home anymore. I locked the door behind me. He didn't let go of my shirt. "Dad," he whispered. "I know," I said. "I've got you." I didn't check my phone. I didn't go back downstairs. I just sat there with him until his breathing slowed, until the trembling stopped just enough that he could rest his head against me without flinching. And then I saw it. The marks. Not one, not two. Multiple thin red lines across his back, already darkening. That's when the calm disappeared. I stood up carefully, laid him on the bed, and stepped into the hallway. The house felt different now. Quieter. Heavier. When I walked back into the living room, Sloane was scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened. My mother was sipping tea. "Normal. Did you seriously bring him here just to act like this?" My mother said, not even looking at me. "Istir de here. I'm calling the police." That got their attention. Sloane sat up straight. "What?" My mother's smile disappeared instantly. "No, you're not." I didn't raise my voice. "I am." Sloane stood now, her posture shifting from casual to defensive. "Reed, don't be dramatic. You hit my son with a belt. He disrespected me. He's 8. My mother stepped in then, finally standing, finally involved. "Enough," she said. "This is family." I felt something tighten in my chest. "No," I said. This was violence. Her voice softened, but it wasn't kindness. It was strategy. "If you call the cops, you'll ruin her life." I looked at Sloane. For the first time, there was something in her expression. Not regret, not guilt, fear. "Don't do this," she said quietly. And that's where it became complicated. Because this wasn't a stranger. This wasn't some distant threat. This was my sister. This was the woman I grew up with. This was my mother standing in front of me, asking me to choose between my child and my family in a way that didn't even feel like a choice anymore. I pulled my phone out anyway. My hand didn't shake, but my chest felt like it might collapse inward. My mother stepped closer. "Think about what you're doing." "I am." "You'll destroy this family." I swallowed. It was already destroyed. I pressed the call button. Sloane didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just stared at me like she was trying to understand how I had crossed a line she didn't even believe existed. The officers arrived 20 minutes later. The house didn't feel like ours anymore when they walked in. It felt like a place being evaluated, measured, judged. They didn't rush. They didn't assume. They asked questions. I answered every one. Sloan tried to explain. He was being aggressive. My mother added, "This is being blown out of proportion." One of the officers looked at me. "Where's the child?" "Upstairs." They went to see him. That was the longest 2 minutes of my life. When they came back down, their tone had changed. Not aggressive, not emotional, just certain. "Ma'am," one of them said to Sloan, "we need you to come with us." My mother stepped forward. "This is unnecessary." The officer didn't argue. "Ma'am, please step aside." And just like that, it became real. Sloan looked at me again as they guided her toward the door. "You really did this," she said. I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't either justify or apologize. And I wasn't willing to do either. After they left, the house felt empty in a way I hadn't expected. My mother didn't speak to me. She just sat down again, her silence heavier than anything she had said earlier. "You've made a mistake," she finally said. I nodded slowly. "I hope not." I went back upstairs. Landon was sitting up now, quieter, watching the door like he was waiting for something bad to come back. "It's okay," I told him. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. And that's when I realized something that stayed with me long after that day. Kids don't always need explanations. They just need to know who chose them. Before we finish, I want to ask you something honestly. If protecting your child meant losing your family, would you still do it? Because some choices don't feel like strength when you make them. They just feel like loss. The legal process took months. There were statements, court dates, evaluations. Sloan didn't go to prison, but she was required to attend counseling, parenting, and anger management programs, and she was legally restricted from being around minors without supervision. My mother stopped calling me. Then she stopped answering. And eventually, she stopped existing in our lives entirely. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was quiet, which somehow made it harder. Landon healed. Physically, faster than I expected. Emotionally, slower than I wanted. But he stopped flinching. He started laughing the same way again. And one night, months later, he asked me something I didn't expect. "Dad, you didn't let her do that again, right?" I shook my head. "Never." He nodded, like that was enough. And maybe it was. Because sometimes the only thing a child remembers isn't what happened to them. It's who stood between them and it happening again.